The air in Savannah, Georgia, carries a sweetness in late September, like honeysuckle and salts from the river nearby. I was out in my little garden this morning, tending to my roses, their petals soft and heavy with dew. At 68, I suppose. I'm not that old, but my knees remind me otherwise when I kneel too long. My name's Dorothy Sullivan, though everyone calls me Dottie. I used to be a pharmacist, spending 30 years behind the counter, mixing prescriptions and chatting with folks about their ailments. Now, retired, my days are quieter, filled with books on medicinal plants and this garden that keeps me grounded. It's my sanctuary, a place where life makes sense. Unlike some parts of my past, my husband, Tom, passed 10 years ago, leaving a hole that never quite filled. We had one daughter, Amelia, who's 35 now. Growing up, she was my sunshine, curly hair, always asking questions about the world. But somewhere along the way, things changed. Amelia grew distant, caught up in her life with her husband, Benjamin. They worked together at a real estate firm, always chasing the next big deal. I hear from them maybe once a month, usually when they need something, a bit of money for a car repair, advice on taxes, or just my signature on some form they say is no big deal. I try not to mind. A mother's heart doesn't keep score, does it? This morning, I was flipping through a pharmacology journal, one of those habits I can't shake, when the phone rang. It was Amelia, her voice bright but rushed. Mom, Ben, and I are coming over tonight, okay? Around 7. Don't worry about cooking. We'll bring something. I paused, my coffee cup halfway to my lips. Visits from Amelia and Benjamin are rare and never spontaneous. Everything all right, honey? I asked, trying to keep my tone light. Oh yeah, just want to see you, she said, too quickly, then hung up before I could press further. I sat there, staring at the phone, a familiar unease settling in my chest. It's not that I don't love my daughter, I do, fiercely, but her calls always carry an undercurrent, like she's working up to ask for something. I glanced at the photo on my bookshelf, Amelia at her wedding, 5 years ago, smiling beside Benjamin. She has Tom's eyes, deep and thoughtful, but there's a hardness in her expression now, one I don't remember from her childhood. Benjamin, with his slick hair and charming grin, always seems a little too polished, like he's selling something even when he's not. I pushed the thought aside and got up to tidy the apartment. It's small, just a one-bedroom with creaky floors and windows that let in the morning light. I've never needed much: my roses, my books, and the occasional visit from old colleagues like Grace, who worked with me at the pharmacy, or neighbors who stopped by for tea. Those connections keep me going, reminders that my life's work meant something. I brushed my gray hair, once chestnut brown, into a neat bun, slipped on a soft green cardigan, and added a touch of lipstick. Not for Amelia or Benjamin, mind you, but for me. A woman should feel good about herself, even on ordinary days. As I dusted the living room, my mind wandered. I thought about the kids I used to counsel at the pharmacy, the ones who'd come in with their prescriptions and their stories. I'd listen, offer a kind word, maybe explain how their meds worked. It felt like I was still helping, even after all these years. But with Amelia, I don't know. Somewhere along the line, I stopped being the person she confided in. Maybe it was when Tom died, and I threw myself into work to cope. Maybe I missed something, some moment when she needed me, and I wasn't there. The clock ticked closer to 7. I set out plates, wondering what Amelia and Benjamin wanted this time. Money, a favor, or maybe, just maybe, they really did want to visit their old mom. I shook my head, smiling at my own hopefulness. A mother's heart, right? Always holding out for the best, even when you know better. The doorbell rang at 7 sharp, and I smoothed my cardigan before opening the door. Amelia stood there, her blonde hair swept into a sleek ponytail, a takeout bag from an upscale Italian place dangling from her hand. Benjamin was behind her, flashing that salesman smile of his, the kind that could charm a snake. Mom, you look great, Amelia said, leaning in for a quick hug. Her perfume was new, expensive, not the floral scent she used to wear. I caught the glint of a diamond necklace at her throat, sparkling under the porch light. It wasn't the kind of thing you pick up on a whim, not on their budget, anyway. Come in, I said, stepping aside. Benjamin carried a bottle of wine, another surprise. They weren't usually the wine and dinner type when they visited. Nice to see you, Dottie, he said, his voice smooth as ever. I nodded, noticing his new phone. some sleek model with a screen that glowed like it cost more than my monthly pension. Just a few months ago, they'd asked me for $200 to cover a water heater repair. Where was all this coming from? We sat at my small dining table, the one Tom and I bought when we first moved to Savannah. The takeout containers smelled of garlic and basil, and I tried to focus on the meal, not the nagging feeling in my gut. "This is lovely," I said, spooning pasta onto my plate. "What's the occasion?" Amelia laughed, a little too brightly. "No occasion, Mom. Can't we just visit?" Her eyes didn't quite meet mine, and Benjamin jumped in, talking about a big project at their real estate firm. "Things are looking up," he said, his fork waving in the air. "Big clients, big commissions." I nodded, but my eyes kept drifting to that necklace. It wasn't just flashy, it was the kind of piece you'd see in a magazine, not on someone who'd been scraping by. And Benjamin's phone. He kept checking it, like he was expecting something important. The conversation stayed light and talked about a new restaurant they'd tried. Benjamin rambled about Savannah's booming property market, but something felt off, like a song played in the wrong key. Then Amelia's phone buzzed. She stepped into the hallway to take the call, her voice low but sharp. I wasn't trying to eavesdrop, but my apartment's walls are thin. "Yes, Dorothy Sullivan," she said, her tone clipped. "It's done. Okay. Everything's in place." My fork froze halfway to my mouth. "Dorothy Sullivan. That's me." I glanced at Benjamin, who was suddenly very interested in his pasta. "Who was that?" I asked when Amelia returned, keeping my voice casual. "Oh, just work," she said, waving a hand, but her cheeks were flushed. "Nothing important." The rest of the dinner passed in a blur. Amelia and Benjamin kept the conversation moving, talking over each other about their plans to redecorate their apartment. Maybe take a trip to the Bahamas. I smiled, nodded, but my mind was racing. Why was my name in her conversation? And why did they both seem so nervous, like actors forgetting their lines? When they finally stood to leave, Benjamin handed me a small envelope. "Almost forgot," he said with a grin. "You asked us to renew your pharmacy subscription. Here's the receipt." I hadn't asked them to renew anything. I've always handled my prescriptions myself. Old habits from my pharmacy days. But I took the envelope, murmuring a thank you, not wanting to start something in the moment. Amelia hugged me again, her arms stiff, and they were gone, their car's taillights disappearing into the Savannah night. I stood at the door, the envelope heavy in my hand, that uneasy feeling now a tight knot in my chest. Back inside, I sat at the kitchen table and opened the envelope. My heart stopped. It wasn't a pharmacy receipt. It was a payment confirmation for a $40,000 deposit on a condominium in the Riverfront District, Savannah's ritziest area, and the payer, Dorothy Sullivan, me. Except I hadn't paid a dime. My name, my address, even my social security number were listed, clear as day. I stared at the paper, my hands trembling, the words blurring as my old eyes strained to make sense of it. I thought back to a few months ago, when Amelia had come over with a stack of papers, just some insurance stuff. "Mom," she'd said, pushing them across the table, "you know how complicated these forms are. Can you sign here?" I'd trusted her, my own daughter, and signed without reading too closely. A mistake, maybe, a big one. The memory hit me like a wave, and I felt sick. Not just from the betrayal, but from the realization that I should come on crawl. I didn't sleep that night. The receipt sat on my kitchen table, its crisp edges mocking me under the dim glow of the lamp. $40,000. My name, Dorothy Sullivan, printed in bold black ink, tied to a condo I'd never seen, never wanted. My mind churned, replaying Amelia's hurried phone call, her nervous smile, the way Benjamin avoided my eyes. I wanted to believe it was a mistake, a clerical error, anything but what my gut was screaming. My daughter had betrayed me. But I'm not one to sit and stew. 30 years as a pharmacist taught me to tackle problems head-on, to check the facts before jumping to conclusions. So, I decided to find out the truth, no matter how much it hurt. The next morning, I brewed a strong cup of coffee and pulled out my old address book, its leather cover worn from years of use. I needed help, someone who knew the ins and outs of financial records. Grace Carter came to mind, a friend from my pharmacy days who now worked at a credit bureau. We'd stayed close, meeting for coffee every few months, swapping stories about our old customers. I dialed her number, my fingers trembling slightly. "Grace, it's Dottie," I said when she picked up. "I need a favor, something personal. Can we talk?" Grace's voice was warm but curious. Of course, Dottie. What's going on? I hesitated, the words catching in my throat. It felt wrong to suspect Amelia, my own flesh and blood. But I told Grace about the receipt, the $40,000 deposit, and how my name was on it. I need to know if there's anything else tied to my accounts, anything, I said. There was a pause, then Grace's tone turned serious. That's not a small thing, Dottie. I can check your credit history, but it'll take a day or two. Can you come by my office tomorrow? I agreed, thanking her, though the knot in my chest only tightened. While waiting for Grace, I couldn't just sit still. I needed more answers. Amelia worked at a real estate firm, and I remembered her mentioning a colleague, Henry, who'd always been kind when I called her office. Henry had been with the firm for years, a steady sort, not flashy like Benjamin. I found his number in my phone and called, keeping my voice calm. Henry, it's Dottie Sullivan, Amelia's mom, I said. I have a question about a property deal, something with my name on it. Can we meet? He sounded surprised, but agreed to meet me at a coffee shop near his office that afternoon. The coffee shop was a cozy spot, all wooden tables and the smell of fresh pastries. Henry arrived right on time, his gray suit slightly wrinkled, his smile genuine but cautious. Mrs. Sullivan, it's good to see you, he said, sitting across from me. I didn't waste time. Henry, I found a receipt for a condo deposit, $40,000, in my name. I didn't make it. Do you know anything about this? His face tightened, and he looked down at his coffee. That's serious, he said slowly. Amelia's been handling some big deals lately, but I don't know the details. She has access to client records, though bank details, signatures, that sort of thing. He paused, then added, I've noticed she's been secretive lately, working late, taking calls in private. I thought it was just stress. His words hit like a punch. Access to records, signatures. I remembered those papers Amelia had me sign months ago, the ones she said were for insurance. My heart sank, but I pressed on. Can you check if this condo deal went through her? Henry nodded, promising to look into it discreetly. Be careful, Mrs. Sullivan, he said as we parted. If this is what it sounds like, it's not just a mistake. That night, Grace called. Her voice was low, almost a whisper. Dottie, I checked your credit history. There's a loan in your name, a big one, $400,000, taken out 3 weeks ago through Amelia's firm for a condo in the Riverfront district. The first payment was that $40,000 deposit you found. I gripped the phone, my vision blurring. I didn't apply for any loan. Grace, I said, my voice barely steady. I know, she replied. This is fraud. Dottie, you need to see the property, get proof. And you might need a lawyer. Sleep was out of the question after that. The next morning, I put on my best navy blazer, the one I used to wear for pharmacy board meetings, and took a cab to the Riverfront district. It's Savannah's pride, gleaming condos with views of the river, the kind of place young couples dream of but can't afford. The address from the receipt led me to a sleek building, all glass and steel, with a doorman who tipped his hat as I walked in. I felt out of place, like a stranger in someone else's life. I'm here to see the condo at Unit 1B, I said, showing him the receipt. He glanced at it, then nodded. Owner's not moved in yet, but you're listed as the buyer, Miss Sullivan. Go on up. The elevator ride felt endless. When the doors opened, I stepped into a hallway lined with plush carpet, leading to a door marked 1B. It was unlocked, probably for cleaners or movers. Inside, the condo was breathtaking hardwood floors, floor-to-ceiling windows, a kitchen with marble counters that gleamed under the sunlight. It was beautiful, but it wasn't mine. I wandered through the rooms, my footsteps echoing, feeling like an intruder. In the study, I found a box on the desk, stuffed with papers. My hands shook as I opened it. There they were, copies of my passport, my bank statements, my social security card, and a purchase agreement for the condo, with my signature or something close to it. The loops on the D were wrong, too sharp, not mine. I was about to close the box when a single page caught my eye. It was an email printout, addressed to Amelia from someone named Beatrice. My sister, Beatrice. My breath caught. The email read, here's the info you asked, for Dottie's ID, bank details, everything. You owe me $5,000, like we agreed. My knees buckled, and I sank into the desk chair. Beatrice, my own sister, who'd always been jealous of my steady life, my marriage to Tom. She'd sold me out to my daughter for a payout, The betrayal wasn't just Amelia's anymore, it was a family conspiracy. And I was the target. I pulled out my old camera, the one I used to take pictures of my roses, and snapped photos of every document. Click, click, click. Each shot felt like a small act of defiance, a way to reclaim control. My heart was breaking, but I couldn't stop now. I needed every piece of evidence, every scrap of truth. As I moved through the condo, I saw signs of Amelia's touch: a bright red throw blanket, her style draped over a couch, a pair of Benjamin's cufflinks on a side table. They'd already started making this place theirs, with money they stole from me. I left the condo, the weight of those papers heavy in my bag. Outside, the Savannah River sparkled, oblivious to my world crumbling. Beatrice, Amelia, how had it come to this? I thought of my sister's bitter comments over the years, her resentment when I got the pharmacy job she'd wanted. And Amelia, I failed her somehow, raised her to think this was okay. I didn't know, but I knew one thing. I wasn't going to let this destroy me. I hailed a cab, my mind racing. I needed to confront them, to face this head on. But first, I needed a plan. And maybe, just maybe, a little more proof. The drive back to the riverfront condo felt like a lifetime, though it was only a few miles across Savannah. I sat in the cab, clutching my bag with the photos of those damning documents, my sister's betrayal burning in my mind. Beatrice, Amelia, the two people I should have trusted most, had turned my name into a tool for their greed. I wasn't sure what hurt more: the fact that my daughter had forged my signature for a $400,000 loan, or that my sister had sold my personal details for a measly $5,000. But I wasn't going to let this break me. I'd spent 30 years solving problems at the pharmacy, double-checking prescriptions, catching mistakes before they harmed anyone. This was just another problem, I told myself, even if it felt like my heart was being ripped out. I asked the cab driver to drop me off a block away from the condo. It was late afternoon, the sun casting long shadows over the river. I knew Amelia and Benjamin would be home soon. They'd mentioned working half-days on Fridays. I wanted to face them in that condo, on their turf, where they couldn't dodge the truth. As I walked up to the building, my navy blazer felt like armor, my old camera and those photos my weapons. I took a deep breath, knocked on the door of Unit 1B, and waited. No answer. I tried the handle, still unlocked, probably from the cleaners. I stepped inside, the marble floors gleaming, the air smelling of fresh paint and ambition. I didn't have to wait long. The door swung open, and there they were, Amelia and Benjamin, laughing, carrying grocery bags and a bottle of champagne. They were mid-sentence, something about inviting friends over to show off the place, when they saw me. Amelia's face went pale, the bags slipping from her hands to the floor with a thud. Benjamin's smile froze, his eyes darting to the side like a trapped animal. "Mom," Amelia's voice was a squeak. What are you doing here? Isn't it obvious?" I said, my voice calmer than I felt. I gestured around the condo, its luxury mocking me. "I'm visiting my new home, the one bought with a $400,000 loan in my name." Amelia's mouth opened, but no words came out. Benjamin set the champagne down, his hands shaking slightly. "Dottie, let's talk about this," he said, his salesman charm crumbling. "It's not what you think." "Then explain it," I said, crossing my arms. "Explain why my name, my social security number, my signature forged by the way are on a loan I never applied for. Explain why my sister, Beatrice, got $5,000 to hand over my personal information." Amelia gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. "Beatrice," she whispered, and for a moment I thought she might not have known, but her eyes betrayed her guilt, raw and undeniable. "Amelia, is this true?" Benjamin turned to her, his voice sharp. "You told me your mom agreed to help us, that she signed everything." Amelia's face crumpled, tears welling up. I didn't want you to worry," she stammered. "I was going to pay it back, Mom, I swear. We couldn't get a loan ourselves, our credits shot from some bad investments. I thought I could handle it." "Handle it?" My voice trembled now, the hurt spilling over. "You used my name, my life's savings, my trust, to buy this palace. Do you know what happens if you miss a payment? The bank comes after me. I could lose everything, my apartment, my pension, my peace." I pulled the photos from my bag, spreading them on the kitchen counter. "Here's your signature, Amelia, not mine. And here's the email from Beatrice, selling me out. Tell me, how is this handling it?" Amelia sobbed, sinking onto a stool. I'm sorry, Mom. We wanted a better life. Everyone else has these things: condos, vacations, nice cars. I thought I could make it work, pay it off with my commissions. Benjamin stepped back, shaking his head. You didn't tell me any of this, he said, his voice low. You said it was all above board. I thought your mom was helping us out of love. Love, I laughed, bitter and hollow. Love doesn't forge signatures. Love doesn't put your mother's future at risk. I turned to Amelia, my eyes locking on hers. And Beatrice. How could you pull her into this? Amelia wiped her tears, her voice barely a whisper. She said she needed the money, and I was desperate. I didn't think it would hurt you. I felt like I'd been slapped. My sister, my daughter, conspiring behind my back, but I swallowed the pain, forcing myself to stay steady. Here's what's going to happen, I said, my voice firm. First, this condo gets sold immediately to pay off the loan. Every cent, including interest. Second, Amelia, you're resigning from your firm today. No arguments. And third, you and Beatrice will confess to the credit bureau and the firm about this fraud. You'll both repay any money you gained from this. Amelia's eyes widened. Resign. Mom, I'll lose everything. I shook my head. You've already lost my trust. That's worse. And if you don't do this, I'll take these photos to the police. Fraud, identity theft, abuse of your position. This could mean years in prison. Benjamin looked at Amelia, his face a mix of shock and disgust. You lied to me, too, he said. I thought we were building a life together. Not this. The room fell silent, heavy with the weight of truth. Amelia nodded, tears streaming down her face. Okay, Mom, I'll do it. I'll sell the condo, resign, confess. I'm so sorry. I wanted to believe her, but I'd trusted her before. And look where it got me. And Beatrice, I asked. She pay back the $5,000, Amelia said quickly. I'll make sure of it. I spent the night in a hotel, too drained to go home. The next morning, I called Henry at the real estate firm. He wasn't surprised. When I told him everything, I suspected something was off, he admitted. Amelia's been pushing risky deals, cutting corners. I'll talk to the director. They'll want to handle this quietly. Bad press hurts more than a lawsuit. By noon, Henry called back. The firm agreed. Amelia would resign, the condo would be sold, and the loan repaid. Beatrice would return her $5,000 cut. In exchange, they'd keep it out of court to avoid a scandal. A week later, the condo was on the market. Amelia moved into a small rental, her marriage to Benjamin hanging by a thread. They were talking divorce, from what I heard. Beatrice left the voicemail, her voice shaky, begging to explain. I didn't call back, not yet. The betrayal was too raw, like a wound that hadn't scabbed over. I'd deal with her later, when I was ready. For now, I had to protect myself, my heart, my future. I'd raised Amelia to be better than this, but somewhere along the line, she'd chosen a different path, and I couldn't let her choices drag me down with her. 3 months have passed since that day in the condo, and Savannah's spring has painted the city in soft pinks and greens. I'm sitting on the porch of my new home, a small, one-story cottage near the river, with a garden where my roses are starting to bloom again. The sale of that riverfront condo went through faster than I expected. Henry, true to his word, worked with the real estate firm to clear the $400,000 loan, and they even offered me a small settlement to avoid bad press. It wasn't a fortune, but it was enough to buy this place, a quiet refuge where I can hear the river's gentle hum and feel like myself again. I've started teaching again, in a way, not in a pharmacy, but right here in my living room, where I hold free classes on basic health and medicine for neighborhood kids. It started with one girl, Lily, who wanted to learn about first aid. Then her brother joined, then their friends. Now, every Tuesday and Thursday, my cottage fills with young voices, asking questions, scribbling notes. It's not just teach purpose, the kind I thought I'd lost. I've also started a weekly book club with old colleagues and neighbors. We sip tea, laugh, argue about novels, and share stories of our lives. These people, this community, they've become my by blood, but by choice. Amelia sent a letter last week. It arrived in a plain envelope, her handwriting shaky on the front, to Mom, from Amelia. I set it on my kitchen table, unopened. I'm not ready to read it, not yet. The hurt is still there, a dull ache that flares when I think of her choices. Her betrayal. Beatrice called, to her voice trembling in a voicemail, begging to meet. I didn't call back. I told her I needed time. and I meant it. Forgiveness isn't something you force, like a pill you swallow to feel better. It takes time, and I'm giving myself that gift time to heal, to protect the peace I've found. This morning, as I tended my roses, I thought about what this all means. Life has a way of teaching you lessons you never asked for. I raised Amelia with love, gave her everything I could, but somewhere along the way, she learned to value things Condo's diamonds over trust. I can't change that, just like I can't change Beatrice's jealousy or her choices, but I can choose how I live now. These roses, these kids, these friends, they're my new beginning, proof that life goes on, even after betrayal. Here's what I've learned. Family isn't just blood, it's the people who show up, who respect you, who lift you up without asking for anything in return. And sometimes, the bravest thing you can do is set boundaries, even with those you love most. It's not about closing your heart, it's about guarding it, so you can keep giving, keep living, keep blooming, like my roses in the spring. I look at that unopened letter and feel no rush to read it. Maybe one day, I'll be ready to hear Amelia's words, but for now, I'm enough. My life, this cottage, this garden, it's enough, and that's a truth worth holding on to.